Look, everybody messes up sometimes. It happens, even to the pros. We all mess up. We all have our off days, or songs, or concerts that just don't go our way. The secret to making an amazing performance is not necessarily to focus on having a perfect performance. The goal is to make sure that the audience has a great time at your performance, and sometimes focusing on perfection can just get in the way more than help. But it can really throw you off when things start going wrong. One mistake can turn into lots of mistakes, and that can derail your whole performance. So, how do we recover from mistakes when performing live? When you're up on stage and the pressure's on, how do you keep it cool? So here are 5 tips to help you when things start going wrong. So one is, don't expect to have a perfect performance. You have to expect that mistakes will happen. If you're expecting to sail through a concert or a piece of music without any issues at all, you've got another thing coming. Performing live in front of a crowd has a way of taking all your hard work at practicing and memorizing music and making you forget all of it. And you just feel like a complete noob up there. Practice like you want a perfect performance, but when it comes time to perform, remember it's not about you, it's about the audience. So long as they're having a good time and so long as they can see that you've put in the effort to put on a great show for them, most audiences are very willing to forgive mistakes. You can't focus so myopically on a single song or a single riff or parts of a concert. When it comes to handling mistakes in live performances, you have to look at the performance as a whole and remember that creating great experiences for the audience is not about perfection on every song. It's about creating an amazing experience over the course of that whole concert. The vast majority of the time, the audience is rooting for you. They probably paid to be there. They want you to succeed, and they'll cheer for you just as hard if you put on what looks like a flawless concert, or if you make a few noticeable mistakes and recover from them. The key being that you recover from them. So, how do we recover from our inevitable mistakes? We've prepared like we want a perfect concert, but we know that mistakes are going to happen. So 2 is to just keep playing. Sometimes you have a brain fart, forget your part, forget the next chord or note. It's all good. If you miss a chord or note or two, it's not the end of the world. Just try to get back on track. Honestly, a lot of audience members wouldn't be able to tell which instrument messed up in the first place. They might know something is off, but wouldn't immediately be able to point you out. I mean, they might start to get suspicious if there are a lot of wrong notes, but they might not know that you're the culprit. But they can definitely tell when something is wrong when you stop playing at all, which is why it's important to just keep playing. If you play an instrument as part of an ensemble, like violins in an orchestra, or you're playing a part that's more in the background, it might be okay for you to drop out for a second to figure out where you're at. But you don't want to drop out for long. The main thing is that you need to understand how your part fits into the music overall, so you can decide how important it is for you to keep playing or not when you mess up. If you're mostly background, even the band might not notice if you drop out for a few seconds, honestly. But if your part is critical, dropping out could cause other members of the band to mess up or just derail everything. And sometimes while you're continuing to play through the mistake, you'll feel or remember where you're supposed to be and you get back on track immediately. It happens all the time. But sometimes that doesn't happen, which is why you should go on to the next thing, which is if you can't get back on track, you need to ask a bandmate for help. I mean, depending on what kind of concert you're in, it might be completely appropriate for you to casually ask a bandmate where you are in the music while you're playing. In other cases, like anywhere in the classical music world, you might have to be a bit more subtle. So this is much more difficult as a soloist, but prepping for solo works is a whole different animal anyway. So we'll focus on playing in an ensemble here. So most musicians who have been around for a while can tell when a fellow musician is struggling. You might even give them one of those looks, the look that says, "I'm lost, but I'm trying not to let the audience know that I'm lost. Help." Every musician that I've played with has made an effort to help me out when I got lost. And I always try to return the favor for someone else when they get lost. It's just the responsible musician thing to do. When we're on stage, we're there to make the best show we can. And if that means drawing attention to ourselves for a second, to point to a spot on the page, or mouth a chord name to someone, then that's what we do, because we're friends, and once again, it's about the audience. And the audience wants you to get back on track. We don't want to announce that we're lost to the whole world, but also we don't want to stay lost for long. So sometimes we just got to do what we got to do. And if you need to call in a favor from a bandmate, do it. Try to do it subtly if you can, but get help from your fellow musicians all the same. So, we're back on track. But that adrenaline you get when you get lost or screw up can really derail you. So, next, you need to move on. Contrary to popular belief, and we've established this already, mistakes don't kill performances. Audiences will forgive mistakes. But you want to know what does kill a performance? When you can't move on after making a mistake, when you screw up and you keep dwelling on it, replaying it in your mind, worrying about other mistakes that you might make, and beating yourself up about some little blunder that you did. That's how you kill the performance. That's it. These kinds of self-destructive thought patterns lead you to make more mistakes and eventually can derail your entire performance and maybe even give you performance anxiety or even lose you future gigs. There are a few ways that you can handle this depending on what level of performance is expected. If you're in a more professional setting or being paid, mentally slap yourself on the wrist for making a silly mistake and then focus on the next note, the next measure, the next phrase. Tell yourself that you're going to nail that next phrase, that next chord, that next riff, and when you do, let that teach that mistake a lesson. Grab a victory as soon as you can and leave that mistake behind as fast as you can. You need to refocus your mind to whatever is going to happen next. Let the past die, let those mistakes go, and focus like crazy on the next thing until you're back on track. If you're in a less formal environment, laugh it off. Don't sweat it. Treat mistakes like they aren't a big deal, and the audience will probably just brush it off. If you treat it like a little thing, they will too. If you treat it like the end of the world and show the audience that you're anxious about it, they might start to feel anxious for you. And we don't want them focusing on that. We want them focusing on the music, not the little blunder that happened. So focus hard, nail the next phrase, give yourself some happy vibes, and carry on like nothing happened. And of course, last, but definitely not least, don't announce your mistake. People may hear mistakes. The astute audience members will know when something isn't right musically, but most audience members probably won't notice or care. Even if you call in a favor from a bandmate, they might not know that it was because of you. They might just think that you're just talking to each other on stage. But you know what they will notice? Your facial expression, your body language. They'll notice that. If you look like a deer in the headlights, or like you just crapped your pants, or your whole body just froze up, they're gonna know something is wrong, even if they didn't hear anything wrong. No matter what mistake you make, if you don't show the audience that you made one through your body language, the majority of them won't know you did. They might know something wasn't right, sonically, orally, but many people won't be able to trace it back to you specifically. So keep it cool up there. Even if it felt or sounded like a colossal mistake to you, if you don't give them any indication that you caused the mistake, they're going to move right along, just like you, and get back into the music. Granted, this is pretty hard to pull off if you're a soloist or a really small group, or if you need to call in a favor from a bandmate. You still don't want to announce your mistakes, but it's hard for audiences not to know when a soloist or small group screws up. But do the best you can to not let your mistakes show up on your face or in your body language, and they'll forget it soon enough. So I wouldn't even worry about it. The better you are at not letting your mistakes show in your body language, the more confidence you'll feel to just get up there and play and have fun, knowing that no matter what happens, you're not going to put up a big neon sign to the audience announcing that you made a mistake. It'll just be a thing that happened, and they'll forget about it by the end of the song. Or, if you're lucky, they might think you did it on purpose, which is the best possible scenario. And that's pretty much it for today, but let's recap. So first, you gotta prepare like you want a perfect show, but expect to make mistakes. You can't avoid it. 2, you gotta keep playing as best you can when you mess up, just don't stop. 3, you gotta ask a bandmate to bail you out if you can't get back on track alone. That's okay. 4, move on. Don't let mistakes create more mistakes. And 5, don't let your body language announce your mistakes to the audience. If you do those things, You'll be just fine. I mean, you might be freaking out from the time you mess up until you get back on track, but you'll have the tools you need to get back on track. This stuff takes practice. Believe me, I've had my fair share of practice recovering from mistakes. But these are things that you can work into your practice schedule, into your rehearsals. It'll take effort, but keep working at it. It makes all the difference in your performances. So thanks for watching, and I want to know, if you've made it to this point, if there's anything that you've done that have helped you overcome mistakes and performance anxiety. Put them in the comments below to help out your fellow musicians. Now get out there and groove, guys. See you in the next one.